We're good,
All good.
Okay.
We're all done now.
Rolling. We're rolling.
I'm excited to figure out what the questions are.
Oh, Jesus. Yvonne Tchrakian, welcome to What Makes You Tick. Finally, we've gotten you here. How are you?
I'm here. I'm good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yvonne has been on my mind to be on the podcast for a long time. We were introduced by a mutual friend called Dave Burke. We were in Dundrum Town Centre having a coffee, myself and Dave, and next thing all of a sudden Yvonne popped up. And you know when you meet someone and you get a kind of an instant connection? That was it. And I was like, right, I want to learn more. I want to know more. And I suggested it to you about coming on the pod. And I think we're nearly a year later.
Probably.
And here we are.
Yeah, but
Lots
you
happened,
remember,
hasn't it?
it's so much. But actually, going back to that day, and I think that like some people just meet, it's meant to be. And I had affirmations on chocolates in my pocket. Do you remember? It said stuff like, I believe in myself, the best is yet to come. And you said, look at this. And you had affirmations on your phone. And I remember thinking, wow, because it's really rare for men to have that sort of manifestation, affirmation mindset or maybe admit it. But it's like far, far, far more females are into it than men.
Interesting you say that, because it's funny, I get slagged about it, right? About having them, and I think it's more of an insecurity in others rather than anything, right? But I put those affirmations on because I was with my good friend Kieran Ruddock, who's an S&C coach, and he suggested to me that affirmations are something to live by, and that it's something that is only you. So it's how you would potentially describe you. And I decided to write them down when I was planning my kind of training. And in them it was, I am powerful, I am great, I am kind. And I kind of lived by that type of approach. And I put them on my phone. My cousin actually printed them out, and I used to have them in my bathroom when I was living in Stepaside, and just have them sitting there, because like that was where I was. You wake up, you're brushing your teeth, you just see them subconsciously, and it was amazing because I didn't know anything about your world and your I suppose the area that you've now become so ingrained in. I didn't know anything about that, and I'd love maybe that we bring our listeners into this and viewers, and give them a kind of sense of what that world is. Because while I had affirmations, you have created this whole world of how to manifest and how to use it in a positive way for people to succeed. Would you just kind of describe that a little bit and tell me about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people find the term manifestation hard. They're like, oh, manifestation, hippy-dippy, load of woo-woo, nonsense sort of stuff, right?
Okay.
But it really is. Like I had the neuroscientists, so I back the manifestation up by neuroscience and the brain. Other people might do quantum physics, quantum mechanics. But Dr. James Doty, neuroscientist, neurosurgeon, he said it's manifesting is a fierce belief in possibility, right? So it's a belief. Dr. Tara Swart, neuroscientist, said it's seizing opportunities. And then Sabina Brennan, who's the Irish neuroscientist, said manifestation is about changing your reality, changing your brain, changing your life. So really all manifestation is creating your dream life, but with your mindset. Because we know our mindset is fundamental to success. And I've always been a huge believer in the power of our mind and how important it is to try and focus on the positives in life, for example. But I also know we're going to have shit days and we're going to go through challenges. And I say the universe, but like it's not the universe doing anything. It's you're creating your reality, but I just use the term universe. The universe is going to throw you challenges, and that's just life, and that's reality. But it's how we react to those challenges and how we keep going. And for anyone that doesn't believe in manifestation and thinks it's a load of nonsense, just read the books like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, 15 million copies sold. It's literally a book on mindset and belief. and neuroscientists, it's backed up by neuroscience. So um, there is a science to it.
So if you were to say to somebody who doesn't believe they can change, whatever whatever age they are within their life cycle, right? They may feel that this is it. A leopard never changes its spots. This is what my life is about. What would you say to those people?
I would say that the brain, neuroplasticity in the brain, we can change our brains. Like some things are, we all know people that are just a little bit negative, or we have family members that you're like, oh, for the love of God, you're just so negative. Get me the hell out of here. But we can change our brains. But just like anything, it takes work, it takes consistency. It takes, some people will be like, oh, those affirmations, I believe in myself, the best is yet to come. They're like, yeah, whatever. But over time, you'll start to believe it. But it takes practice. Just like, I always say manifestation is like equivalent to health and fitness, right? You've got health and fitness. And then one bucket of it is you're going to go to the gym. You've got to get your ass up and go to the gym and work out. But there's also all these other things. You've got to get enough sleep. You've got to eat well. There's all these little sub things to it, and manifestation is like that umbrella term, and there's all these little things underneath it, like practicing gratitude, saying your affirmations, visualizing, which all the athletes do, right? So there's all these little things that you can do to start to change your brain. And sometimes you have to convince yourself it's going to happen for you, because sometimes one of the biggest things that comes up with people who follow me is just believing it's going to happen. And that might be for little things like having a baby, because you're knocked back and you've gone through miscarriage or you've gone through loss. Like, is it ever going to happen for me? Or maybe it's meeting someone because you get cheated on, or, there's nobody out there. That's what you start telling yourself. Or it's the dream job and you don't get picked for the job and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it. And those are the challenges that you're going to get along the way. And all these little tools of gratitude and affirmations and visualization are just going to help you get there.
Take me back to when manifesting our manifestations became so ingrained in your life and became part of your DNA. Has it always been that since you were a young person, or has it something changed that you decided, right, I'm gonna try this for a while? Where did it all begin?
I grew up in LA, and I would have had, my parents left in the 80s to go to California because the times were a little bit tough, right? So I would have grown up in a family that was actually quite scarcity. The 80s were tough. My dad was a carpenter, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. But I always remember as a kid, my dad would say things like, it's funny what you remember as a child, oh, it was my Holy Communion. And I said, oh, can we bring my cousin Ashling? Because she was like a sister. It's like, we can't afford that. It's all too expensive, which is totally understandable. One man working as a carpenter, living in California, it's not cheap. And I always remember that anytime my parents or my dad or anyone would say anything about money, I would say, when I grow up, I'm never going to have to worry about money. And I would tell myself this, and I would convince myself of it. And then when we moved back to Ireland, my uncle, who had lived in California, came home to visit. And he brought the book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And he said, Yvonne, you're going to love this book. You're absolutely going to love it. So I read it and I was like, this is me. Like, this is actually me. It's who I am. And then what happened was, I didn't get the points to study law. I wanted to study law, but I was like, no, I'm still going to do it. So I did arts in Galway. I didn't get into a law firm. It was so hard in 2008. Things were tough, but I was like, no, I'm going to get into one of the top 5 law firms. I didn't know how, because I didn't have like those top grades or points. I didn't have the straight Trinity law degree. I did arts, but I knew. I was like, no, this is going to happen. I'm going to do it. So it was a determination. And then as the years went on, I realized like my manifestation evolved into like, realizing that it actually does work, but some things are harder to manifest than others for people. Like for me, I always say money, abundance, that's not hard for me because I have this mindset that I've convinced myself it's never going to be an issue. But when I wanted to meet somebody, I found it hard.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that goes to women and age and, oh, is it ever going to happen for me? And then when I wanted to have a baby, I found it hard. And that was because I had this thing in my head when I wanted to have a baby. I was like, I'm going to get pregnant easily. It's not going to be a problem for me. I just knew it. I had this thing and I did. But then I had a miscarriage and then I had a second miscarriage and then I had a third miscarriage. And so then that was the point at which it was like, that's it. I'm going to manifest twins, two boys at Christmas. I had this belief. And I used to visualize coming up to Christmas, actually, Mariah Carey's song used to play, All I Want for Christmas. And I used to sing the song, All I Want for Christmas is Two Babies. And I used to sing it and sing it. And then I got fourth time lucky with a boy. And then I had a loss at 5.5 months, which was Polly. And then I got Penelope and I was done. I was done. I was like, I am good. We have two kids. And then I got pregnant again. And it was twins, two boys. And they were due in January of 2023. But they arrived on Christmas Eve. Twins, two boys at Christmas. So I believe, and these are the stories I think that are hard from a manifestation point of view, because I believe that you can manifest anything from a logical perspective, the house, the car, the money, right? But when it comes to things like the soulmate, the babies, I feel like it's still the exact same steps, the exact same mindset. But how does it happen? I can't explain that, right? I can explain all the other stuff from the brain and neuroscience. But that kind of stuff, I'm like, I can't really explain it. Like, how does your brain create that reality?
Yeah. So so we talk about the kind of the material things there, right? In terms of the money, the car and the house, right?
Yeah.
So there's steps, the immaterial things or the things that are like completely out of your control are the soulmate and the baby element, right? What about happiness, right? So big thing is, I think you can become a product of your environment, right? So if you look back at your dad, you know, the way he spoke to you guys to kind of gave you that best opportunity with what he had, right? But because of that, we can't afford that message that resonated with you as a child. So because you're in that environment, you're like, right, I'm going to get myself out of that environment in the future. Similarly with happiness, I find that you wake up in the morning, you can choose whether you want to be happy or sad, right? I think it's a choice when it comes to feelings. I do think that there is if somebody says you made me feel this way, you have given them the control over how you feel, right? And I think there's something completely, I think that's a cop out. I do think that people can hurt others without a doubt, but I do think it's how you react to somebody speaking to you or somebody saying things to you is a reflection of yourself as opposed to the person who's saying it and delivering it, right? Where does the manifestation come when it comes to change your mindset and change your approach to life?
Well, I have 7 steps and I think it can be used for everything. Absolutely everything. The first thing is, what do you want? You want to be happy. You want to be fulfilled. You want to find your purpose. But you have to be clear on that. Like, clarity is key when you start, right?
Lovely.
Why do you want it? Well, you want to live your best life. You know, you don't want to be full of anxiety and stress and, and then there's the visualization. What do you see? You see yourself like enjoying life. You see yourself on a beach, whatever it is,
Yeah.
What do you hear? Like, so what are you telling yourself? Like, if you want to be happy, what are you actually saying to yourself on a daily basis? Are you waking up saying, I am wrecked. I'm so tired. I am so sick. Life is so hard. I can't afford. Okay, it might be hard. It might be hard. People are going through tough times. You might be going through a miscarriage, a loss, grief, redundancy, whatever it is. I've been through them all. A health issue. I had a big health issue. I've had lots of them. But what are you telling yourself? Even when the doctor, so I had a heart operation, minor heart operation, and the doctor had to go through my leg up into my heart. And they told me it would be really, really rare, but they could nick a vein in my leg. But that's like, you need to give the consent. And I was like, don't tell me about it. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, it happened, right?
Oh, Jesus.
And I remember afterwards, the doctor kept saying to me, like I was 35, I wanted to have another baby, and he kept saying to me, "You're so unlucky. You're so unlucky." And every time he said that, I would say in my head, "I am so lucky. Like I came out alive. Like
Mm.
I'm
It's
alive."
perspective, isn't it?
It's perspective, but you can tell yourself of all these hardships, "I'm tired, I'm wrecked, I'm sick." And you can also let other people put them on you. But ultimately, manifestation, whether it's happiness, the soulmate, the abundance, whatever it is, it's up to you. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody's going to change your life. You've got to change your own life. You've got to be ready for it.
Somebody said to me, nobody cares about you as much as you.
Nobody gives a shit.
You know?
And that is totally true. And
Yeah.
if you've ever been through grief or death of anybody, that'll be the first time you'll actually realize that effectively you are alone in this world. And I know that sounds grim, but what I mean is nobody else can hold on to your hardships. We can't. We've got our own.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just a reality.
Tell me about the 7 steps, though. So the 7 steps that you have when it comes to manifesting.
So the first step, well, first of all, before you start manifesting, right? Before you're like, I want a soulmate, I want abundance, I want whatever the hell it is you want in your life. Because I believe you can have anything you want. And I mean this, anything, but you have to believe it. So before you start manifesting, you have to think about your limiting beliefs. Are you good enough? Are you worthy enough? What are you saying to yourself? Like, what are these beliefs that were either inherited as a child of you not being good enough, or a teacher said to you, you'll never make anything of yourself. And you've got to work on yourself before you start getting into manifesting whatever you want.
So how would somebody work on themselves, right? So just reframing themselves? Is that maybe potentially going speaking to somebody and a counselor, just kind of give them a different perspective of themselves? Because I remember reading a piece and listening to Marissa Peers. Have you ever heard of Marissa Peers?
No.
She's in a similar kind of style to you, and we'll get back to the 7 steps in a sec. But she says that, and like what you said, if you look in the mirror and you say, "I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job," and every single time you say that, what your body does then to protect you is all of a sudden on a Sunday night you start getting a sniffle. You start feeling a little bit sick, and you're a bit under the weather, and then Monday you can't go to work because you're feeling poorly. That's your body reacting to what your mind is telling it. So it doesn't know sarcasm, doesn't know jokes, doesn't know any different ups and downs. It just knows I am sick, or I hate my job, I hate my boss, I wish I don't work there, da 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 da. And like a way of stress not relieving and coming out of your system, it internalizes itself, and hence comes out in some other form, like a sickness. And her belief and her point of view is, if you say I'm going to get my best job, or I love myself, or I'm really excited about next week, or I can't wait for this, and I am great, or I am enough, all those type of positive things, then your body starts becoming healthier, you become brighter in yourself. And changing the word need to want is a simple thing. So if you need something, you kind of put pressure on yourself to do it. Whereas if you want something, even the word itself creates a little bit of a smile on you, and it creates a kind of like it's your choice, and I think before people go to manifestations and trying to figure out that, reframing the way they speak to themselves first, until they're in a place where they feel, okay, I'm happy with who I am now. Now let's get into the manifestation part. Right in saying that?
Yeah, and sometimes you can, you might just have limiting beliefs around certain things.
Yeah.
You might have limiting beliefs around money, so you just have to need to work on that. Everything's so expensive. I'll never be rich. I can't do this. It's so hard. I'm so broke. But you could have limiting beliefs around your worth and your confidence. And it's becoming aware of those. And yeah, going to therapy could be an option. But if you can't, maybe if somebody can't afford therapy, then you start your gratitude practice. It rewires the brain. You start to notice positive things. It really does help reframe past trauma and any future trauma that is going to come, because we're all going to be thrown challenges along the way. That's just going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of science on that. Affirmations. You might not have believed them initially, but over time, once you keep telling yourself them, it is going to help you along the way. And getting back to your point, if people don't believe that like what you're saying to yourself impacts your body, there's an amazing study. It's called like the milkshake test, where they took two categories of people and they told one group, this is like a low calorie 600, 300 calorie protein shake or something like that. I don't have the exact details, but, and then they told another group, this is like a really filling shake, but the shakes were the same, right? They were the exact same, but one group thought that they were drinking low calorie diet shake, and the other one thought they were having. The group that thought they were having the low calorie shake, their hormone levels, there's like two hormones that tell you if you're hungry, ghrelin and another one, changed. So it actually had a physical impact on their body. So if you think that what you're telling yourself is having no impact on you, then think again, because there's scientific studies on it. So we have to be the funny thing is, I actually know how powerful our brains are. Sometimes I'm afraid of negativity. Like I'm like, snap yourself out of it. Snap yourself out of it, because if you think this, it's going to happen.
Interesting. I can relate with that, because when I played sport, I used to get injured quite a lot, right?
Mm.
And there was times where I was going onto the pitch going, I hope I don't get injured today, right? Really, really. And coming out of sport without, on my own terms, was a big plus for me. Like, it was a really kind of, okay, I'm doing it on my terms, great. My body's okay now. I'm not coming out injured. I'm not being forced out. And then I went skiing a couple of years later, and I was like, geez, I hope I don't hurt myself on the slope. And a day and a half into it, I dislocated my kneecap, and I was done, right? And I had to get it reconstructed a few years after. But my mind, I always, if I didn't say it out loud, I felt like it was going to happen to me. And then once I said it out loud, it never really happened. But if I say it to myself, it's weird.
It's so funny.
Maybe it's coincidental.
No, I don't think so. I actually had a real big fear of getting cancer, and I don't know why. And it was this like this fear, I think I saw it a lot on social media, different people. And I remember I said it to a friend of mine who's a real good, like, kind of soul coach, and it went away. But I know. So, and by the way, folks, I'm not saying if you think about getting cancer, you're going to get it. So let's just be clear here.
Yeah.
But I have a really similar story to you, right? So, and this started happening when I got my health issue, when I got my wisdom teeth out. And the doctor first said, oh my God, you've got this huge like cyst in your mouth. How have you never seen this before? He actually took pictures to show his lecture class. He was like, this is so rare. It's so rare. And then I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and he told me, if you get your wisdom teeth taken out, you might get dry socket. It's rare, but it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like rare again. It happened, right? Next thing that happened was I had a miscarriage. And the doctor was like, if it's rare, but it can happen
That
again.
word.
It happened again, right? Then the next thing that happened was I was being induced for my firstborn son. And she said to me, look, it's rare, but this can go too quickly. And we're going to need to like get him out, and, the induction. And it did. And it happened. And then what happened was he was born on the cord. And she was like, it's rare, Yvonne. But like, I said, what would have happened to him? And she said, 40% chance of death or disability. And I was like, oh, holy shit. And I remember saying to her, next baby, it's a C-section, right? I am not like, none of this, I was scared. Like, I had a lot of fear. And then after that, I had the heart surgery. And they said, it's rare, but we can nick a vein. And it happened, right? And I remember before I went into the surgery, the doctor was going through all the, he was like, this is my bread and butter. I do it all the time, right? And he was like, but these are the rare things that can happen. I looked at him in the eye and I said, don't tell me. If it's rare, it happens to me. And it happened, right? Next, I got pregnant with a little girl. And she died due to a rare cord incident. That cord that was on my mind, which I really struggled with post having the baby, because I was like, all I could think of was the cord, you know? So then I would remember saying to myself, Yvonne, if it's rare, it happens to me. You're saying this all the time as how it relates to your health. Stop it. Like, you have got to change it up. So I remember saying to the doctor after this had happened, the heart issue, I said to him, look, is there any possibility that this can heal itself? Because he was in the room with me, and the surgeon, the vascular surgeon, it was not the heart surgeon, it was the one that was deals with veins, because it was vein. He was like, you're so young, you're so unlucky, like I had said before. And he looked at me and he said, that would be a miracle. And I remember thinking, if it's rare, it happens to me in a positive way. I was like, this isn't gonna be a problem. So I started to visualize like it going away and it healing, and I had to go back every 6 months for a review. It's still there, but it's not getting any bigger. It's still there, it's not getting any bigger. And I was like, this isn't going to be a problem. This is going to heal. Our bodies are smart. It's almost like our bodies are smart. They can do it. If I can make a baby, I can heal my vein. Like, this is not going to be a problem. So then I got pregnant with Penelope, which was the baby that came after the loss. And they were like, oh, we can't see the hole, but you're heavily pregnant. And it's probably because it's pushing down on the leg. And I went back again. No hole.
God.
Miracle. And I really, really believe that what you're saying to yourself is so important, whether it's good or it's bad. And you are manifesting every single day. You are manifesting right now, you know, like whether you like it or not, your behavior, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs are creating your reality. So what is it going to be? At some point, you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to say, this is it. This is enough. I am in the wrong movie. Get me the hell out of this movie. It's a new one. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight. It's not. Things take time. And you're going to be challenged along the way. But ultimately, it's all down to you. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like manifestation.
Love it, yeah.
Because like I trust myself.
Yeah, and you back yourself.
I back myself. I back myself. But you know what, Stephen? The way you start backing yourself and getting confidence in yourself, and you know this is from being an athlete, is you make commitments and you stick to them, even if they're small ones. I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to go to the gym. Well, if you hit snooze on the first day or the second day or the third day, well, how are you going to run that marathon, that bigger goal? Like, you have got to be able to trust yourself. And that's where it starts. So you either want it or you don't.
I needed you today because I have been hitting that snooze. We have a 10-week-old, and it's unbelievable, right? The best thing that has happened, and trying to get back into a routine. And if I'm up a little bit late, I won't get up in the morning potentially because I'm like, I was up late, right? Looking after him, whatever. But my wife is unbelievable. Like, she's like, right, I can't go at 7 and go on at 12. I can't go at 12 and go on at 5. Like, she's been brilliant. She got back training 6 weeks after, and I said it to her. I said, you're my motivator. Like, you're one of the reasons that I get up, because you get up and I don't want to let you down, you know? Yeah. So I do think you're right, though. I do think when you take the easy kind of opt-outs, they then manifest themselves into bigger, larger opt-outs, and before you know it, you're 6 months down the road and you're going, fuck it, I'm not fit anymore.
You've opted out of your life.
But, you know, yeah. The other piece I like is that Change the Movie. I remember listening to somebody and they say, you are the lead actor in your movie.
The writer, the director,
Yeah.
it's totally true.
You're the lead, right? So don't be worrying about playing the second fiddle. Don't be chasing after somebody who doesn't want your time. You take control of it and you lead the life that you live and you become the lead role. That is something that people find hard. I think, especially in Ireland, I think people might find hard to fathom that it's like it's okay to be a little bit selfish about where you want to get to, because as we said a minute ago, nobody cares as much about you as you do. So be that bit selfish, do the things that make you happy, and ignore the negativity, ignore the doubters, ignore the ones who aren't ambitious, or ignore the ones who have kind of strange energy. Just focus on what it is that you want to achieve, and surround yourself with people who are encouraging. They mightn't be the same way of thinking, but they encourage you, right?
100%. I mean, like I recently was at a beautician's sort of place, and I said I wanted Sara Blakely on my podcast. Sara Blakely is the Spanx founder, billionaire, and she's now invented a product called Sneaks, which are like high heels sneakers. But she's a huge believer in the power of the universe. And like, it's amazing having her talk about it because it makes it she normalizes it, and she's a billionaire, right? And I remember this lady said to me, I was like, yeah, I really want to manifest Sara Blakely on. I'm visualizing, I'm reading the book Spanx, I'm saying my affirmations, blah, blah, blah. And she looked at me and she said, you're delusional. And I was like, yeah, if you're not delusional, you're not dreaming big enough. So then anyway, I kept on. I was like, I don't give a shit what people think of me. I don't care what their opinion is. And guess what happened? So what happens when you're manifesting is your brain is filtering out certain information, right? And so because we can only take in so much, but your brain, there's selective attention, pays attention to what you focus on. So in my manifestation box, I had written down, want Sara Blakely on the podcast. Why do you want it? She's inspirational, brand awareness, exposure, help inspire other people to live their best lives. And then I went through the 7 steps, right? And so then I started taking action, because this is the problem with a lot of people is they have some sort of vision board or something, but you have to take action. So I reached out to her on LinkedIn, no response. I reached out to her on Instagram, no response. And I think, how am I going to get her attention? It sounds totally crazy. This American billionaire, this random Irish girl in Ireland. And on Father's Day in the US, she tagged her dad in a post on Instagram. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to reach out to him. He's a lawyer. So I was like, that's it. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, my name's Yvonne, blah, 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 blah. You know what? He wrote back to me. He said, send me your number and Sara will call you. I nearly dropped. I was like, like, what? And what happened? She never called. And I was like, she's going to call. I know she's going to call. I had my phone attached to my hip. This was back in July. My phone was attached to my hip. I was like, she's going to call. And so she never called. So then I said to him, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Because he taught them about failure. He used to sit at the dinner table with them every night and say to them, what did you fail at today? As if it was a positive, which it is, because if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? So he came on the podcast. And so then in kind of mid-October, I was flying to Lisbon with my husband. First time getting away and like on a trip abroad. I think it was like 7 or 8 years, because we have 4 kids, under 6. It's not easy. And I remember I had messaged John Blakely, Sara's dad, that morning because of all of the chaos that was going on the East Coast with the storms. But just because I texted him the odd time and said, I hope you guys are safe. That was it. And I get on the flight, and of course, as usual, my phone is dead. I get off the flight, we get to our hotel, and I remember thinking on the way to hotel, this is the shit that happens when your phone is dead. You hear all these stories, oh, my phone is dead, and then all of a sudden I turn it on and this epic thing happens. So anyway, I get to the hotel and phone is dead, plug it in, then I turn it on and I see a missed call from John Blakely, and I go to messages and I don't hear anything. And I'm just about to message him. Hey, John, hope all is okay. You know, I think you accidentally called me and I hear this. Hi, Vaughn. It's Sara Blakely here. You manifested this, girl. And I'm like, what?
No
And
way.
when she comes to Ireland, we're going to meet. And I'm telling you, she's going to be on my podcast. I am going to meet her. It sounds delusional. And I don't give a shit what other people think. She called me.
Unreal. And you created that reason. You created the opportunity because you didn't say take no for an answer. I'm
It's
actually in the process.
persistence.
I'm in the process of doing that with Laura Bonner, who is she's from Donegal.
I
and
know
she's,
her. I've asked her on the podcast. She's going to come on next. She's a
you're
huge
ahead of me.
manifester.
Yeah, you're ahead of me. So yeah, but and I had reached out to Laura about 7 or 8 months ago, and she replied to me, but she was off to Australia at the time, and since then she's just exploded. You know, so we'll get her. We'll get her.
She's a
at some
huge
point.
manifester. Do you know that she
No.
had written down the investors, the names of the investors that she wanted to invest in Muff Liquor Co. She had written them down, and she was at a point where she had said on another podcast, she was like, my brother, I think it was her brother or something, was like, Laura, like, you know, you're just throwing money at it this, like you're throwing money in the fire effectively, something like that. I don't want to. And she was like, no, I am not giving up. Like, she's a huge believer in the power of the mind and manifestation.
Yeah, Jesus, I love that one. You can put in a good word for me.
I don't know her yet. I got to get her on. Laura, we're looking for you, both of us.
Get in line. Let's just quickly go back to the 7 steps,
Yeah.
and just quickly talk to them a little bit, just in what those 7 steps are for anybody who's listening, who's kind of interested. And obviously I'll put in all the ways to contact you and to get on board in the show notes, but just to give people a little bit of a sense of those 7 steps would be great.
Yeah. So the first step is what? So like, what do you want in your life? And a lot of people are confused. They're like, I'm not really sure. I don't know. What do I want? So you have to get clear on what you want. And I always say, if you don't know what you want, park it for a second and write down how you want to feel. Like maybe you want joy, happiness, love, financial independence. Just park it. Do your your gratitude, your affirmations, but write down how you want to feel. But the first step is always being clarity. Clarity is key. You've got to know what you want. And by the way, it's not about what your family or society or your friends think you should be doing. This is what you want to do. The 5 regrets of the dying. The number 1 regret was not living a life authentic to yourself. If there is something that you want to do, then do it. And I'm not saying you've got to quit your job and, start your passion project. I'm a lawyer. I still work on my passion project. So figure out what it is you want. The second card is your why. Why do you want it? Like, why do you want it? I remember when my husband came home from football practice one night and he was pissed, like not drunk, pissed off. And he was like, oh, one of the lads said, like, why is Yvonne selling these boxes? Like, she's a corporate lawyer. She makes good money. Like, why is she doing it? This is crazy. Like, and I understand that. I get it. It's the easier path for me is just to go to my job, be a lawyer, earn my paycheck every month. And my why goes back to it was started after the loss of the baby. And I remember thinking after she had passed away, I remember thinking, God, some people like get 7, because she was buried on my dad's birthday, 70th birthday. I remember thinking, some people get 70 years. Some people don't even get a day on this earth. What are you going to do with your life? And when there's times when I'm feeling like, what am I doing? Because believe me, I have those days too, that I'm just a bit like, geez, this is a hustle. This is a hustle, trying to make sales, trying to promote, trying to push, trying to market. I remember I want to inspire people to live their best lives because I know they can do it. If I can do it, they can do it. The only difference between me and somebody else is the mindset, and you can change your mindset. And then the third card is, what do you see? So think about what you want to manifest in your life, whether it's your podcast going global, more business clients, making more sales, the dream job, the dream house. What does that look like? Like, I visualize like in really short snapshots. Like, so I see myself on a huge stage. I love being on stage. I love talking about manifestation. So that's what I visualize every single night. I see myself on the stage. I can see the crowd. So you have to be able to see it and embed it in your subconscious mind. So what I do before I go to sleep is I visualize as I'm falling asleep. Just visualize, 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 visualize. So you're not doing anything else anyway. You're going to sleep. Get it into your subconscious mind. Step 4 is, what do you hear? As if you've manifested it. Like, so let's say you want your podcast to go global. You're in the number 1 spot. I love your podcast. You just won Best Podcast Award. I've just hit 1 million downloads. Like, what do you hear? As if you've manifested. What does it sound like? And if you struggle with what do you hear, like, think about what you want to manifest, right? Think about it. Who are you calling to tell? What are you saying on the phone? Oh my God, I'm pregnant. Or, oh my God, I just got this deal with this brand. Or like, we just went sale agreed on our house. What does it sound like to you? Or we're pregnant, whatever it is. But also on the flip side of that here, what are you saying to yourself that's not serving you? And that's fundamental. And we talked about that earlier. So if you want to manifest abundance and you keep saying, I'm so broke, it's so expensive, it's so hard, it's not serving you. I said, okay, I want to get fit and healthy because I've really not been prioritizing my health and fitness. Every time I went into the gym, I kept hearing myself say, I'm so unfit. I used to be so fit. Stop. Of course, you used to be so fit in your 20s with no kids and no other responsibilities. Looking back and thinking about your past isn't going to change your present. Like, you are where you are. You're 41. You've got 4 kids. I have to tell myself, I'm getting fitter every single day. I am getting fitter. And I can be as fit as I was, but I have to try a little bit harder. And then the 5th card is, what do you feel? You've got to be able to feel it as if it has happened. You know, I remember I interviewed someone on my podcast that said her journals, she made a corporate asked for 1,000 of her journals. And I was like, oh my God, I felt it as if it happened for me. And I watched that clip over and over again. And then when Anya Kennedy of the Smooth Stick said, Molly May has just used my smooth stick, I watched that clip over the feelings. And I thought, imagine Sarah Blakely calling me and the feeling. So you can get those instead of like envy and jealousy. There's space for everyone, guys. Like, there's enough room for all of us. We only need a tiny slice of the pie. So use other people instead of jealousy and envy to be like, me next, and keep telling yourself that. And then 6th card, what action are you going to take? Like, you can throw up a vision board. By the way, I don't like vision boards. And this is one of the reasons why. A vision board isn't going to ask you, why did you put it up there? A vision board isn't going to say, well, what action are you going to take to get there? You're not just going to sit on your ass and it's going to appear. You have to hustle a little bit. You have to go after your dream. And that requires taking action every single day. You want to get fit and healthy? Get your ass to the gym. Get your sleep. Drink your water. Right? Like, you have to take those actions and make better food choices. You have to take the necessary steps to get there, right? And what if it's like you're broke and you just want money? Well, work on your mindset every single day. That's an action that you can take. And finally, gratitude, because fundamentally manifestation starts and ends with gratitude. People will message me, I don't have enough money, or I'm broke, I'm this. I'm like, you've got a roof over your head and your kids are healthy and safe. And we live in a country, if you're listening in Ireland, that we are safe. So that's one thing to be grateful for. My kids can go to a playground and they are safe, right? Not everybody has that. We have clean water in our taps. Start with that. If you're listening to the podcast, you can hear. You've got sound. If you have an iPhone and you're watching this or you're watching it on YouTube or whatever, you have your eyesight. Be grateful for the little things, and more will start to come. And once you start practicing gratitude consistently, you'll start to notice shifts in your mindset. And there's no science to say that you need to write down 10 things a day. None of that. One thing a day. All you need, and get deep on it. Like you're grateful can be, I'm so grateful that Stephen invited me on his podcast and we get to have an amazing conversation. And I enjoy talking about manifestation and he's giving me a platform to speak. There's always something in your day that you can be grateful for. And those 7 steps, I guarantee you, can be used for everything. Like you want to not be afraid of flying. You want to manifest a soulmate, a baby. You want to manifest a podcast. Everything I've done in my life, I've followed those 7 steps. Everything. But you've got to write it down. No vision board. We know that writing it down fires up the brain. So write it down. Take action. And if you can actually do it with a friend or like a partner or something like that, you have accountability. And that's why I do the manifestation challenges with groups, which are so much fun because we have accountability. It's just like a gym partner.
Tell me about the groups as well, because how would people get on board with those?
So I did my first ever manifestation chat, and this just goes to show, right? You've got to dream big and be delusional. I did my first manifestation challenge in October. You love that. I am Delulu. I have a bracelet.
That's going to be the headline for the podcast.
Yeah,
Dream
I have a
big and be
bracelet.
delusional.
It's like Trululu Delulu. Like I have a bracelet that says Delulu. Like that is it. I'm just telling you this. If you're not delusional, you're not dreaming big enough. If you can, so this is what happens.
They say about the people who are crazy, right? They're only crazy until it works.
Yeah.
And to that point is like, you have to have a thought that nobody else is really thinking of because they can't picture it.
Well, like Sara Blakely.
Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to do my first manifestation challenge, a 21-day manifestation challenge. By the way, folks, there's no science around 21. A habit you may not get in 21 days, but at least this will get you started. So initially I was like, I want 25 people to join the manifestation challenge. And then I thought, hold on a second, Yvonne, you can get 25. So I said 44. I had 125 people join. It sold out because I only had a certain amount of stock for it. So it exceeded my expectations. I was like, this is amazing. And then what we did was everybody got a manifestation box, a manifestation bracelet, and I had 3 Zoom calls. So I go through the first 7 steps on one Zoom call, then steps 8 to 14, then steps 15 to 21. And we have a WhatsApp group. And every day there's a step. So the first 7 days is going through the 7 steps. So what do you want day 1? But every day there's a gratitude. There's a step on the first 7 days, a gratitude, an affirmation. And then at nighttime, we label our alarms. So you can label your alarm like the best is yet to come. I used to label my alarm, Sara Blakely is calling me. So I would wake up to Sara Blakely is calling me. Like this sort of nonsense,
yeah.
Right? But it's making me believe.
Yeah. It's
putting that focus in my mind. And so we have a WhatsApp group, and I open the group for certain periods because nobody wants 10,000 messages a day. We don't want that shit,
No.
Right? But we do want to hear about other people's stories and maybe what they're manifesting if they want to share. So every morning around 7 a.m., I'm up and I'm like, day 1, your gratitude is for whatever it is in the prompt, because you get a digital document as well. So like your gratitude could be someone, your bestie, or it could be someone you love, or the last person you saw, or somebody who provides a service to you, whatever it is. It's different every single day. So you have a gratitude card in the box. It's posted to you before the challenge starts. And then you move on. And every day from day 8 to 21, there's some other task. So every day, no matter what, you're doing a gratitude, an affirmation, labeling your alarm. But after the 7 days, you start visualizing at night before you go to bed. And then I add on fun stuff, right? So one thing is you buy a card for yourself. So you buy the card you would expect to receive if you'd manifested what you wanted. So when I was manifesting twins, I bought a card that said, congrats on the twins. Now I've bought a card for Sara Blakely, and it says, it's like you did it, so like that could be for health and fitness as well, right? Yeah. So you buy the card you'd expect to receive. It's just fun. Like you have to have a little bit of fun in life and not take yourself too seriously, folks. And then we did your manifestation song. So we created a playlist called Manifesty Besties. So I was really low vibe yesterday, actually.
Okay.
I got up. I was like, okay, Yvonne, you're low vibe. Went into the gym, did my gym workout, got up, and I played Ellie Goulding, Anything Could Happen. The song is just brilliant. Got my daughter dancing in the kitchen. I was like, this has raised my vibe. Later that day, I got a message from LinkedIn, and I was like, this is the greatest day ever. About coming into them, into into LinkedIn.
Amazing.
I'm telling you this, Stephen. 31st of October 2023, I was dropping off stock to a lady who had bought them for her team. So she'd bought gratitude boxes for her team for Christmas. She was buying the order early, October 31st. And I walked there, and just around the corner, actually, not far from here. And as I walked home, I passed LinkedIn. I took a picture outside of it 1 year ago, and I said, someday I'm going to be in there, right? Then I did the manifest. So in the 7 steps, guys, there is no how. How is it going to happen is not your problem. You just keep taking the action. When is not your problem. No timelines. I know we want to get places, but you can't put a timeline on it. You're going to start obsessing over the timeline. The timeline is going to come around. It's not going to happen. Fear and doubt's going to kick in. And then your whole manifestation is screwed, right? So let go of the timeline. Trust the timing of your life. So then anyway, I did the manifestation challenge in October. We're having our next one in January. And a girl that works in LinkedIn was on the challenge. And she said, I absolutely love this. Can you send me your corporate deck? And I'm going to send it on to our wellness team. But in the meantime, I had made a commitment to myself that I wanted more corporate orders. So anytime anybody would like a post on LinkedIn that I knew that was a lawyer, I would say, hey, can I send you my... So I was taking action, not directly towards LinkedIn, but I was effectively telling the universe, I want more corporate orders. And they placed an order. And I was like, and by the way, I dropped it off myself, the order in October, set off the alarms in the place. It was total mental madness. That's what happens when you buy from a small business, but they're asking me back in December. And so the manifestation challenge is getting a community together. We're going to do an in-person event in January. It's just going to be fun. And it's just really high vibes. Like the people are amazing. I had one man on.
Well,
only one.
Well, you might get another one now in January.
I'm gonna get you on.
Yeah, I'd love to be part of it, because there's a lot of things that you're saying that it's allowing me reframe my thoughts. Like my mind is going crazy at the moment with where I want to get to, what I want to do, and it's having a structure in place, like those 7 steps, and even being around like-minded people who are delusional as well, that want to try new things or be better, make their lives a little bit better. I'd love to just quickly talk about the podcast, All Up in Your Biz. You've had some class guests on it. Jerry Hussey. I was really impressed with Francesca Amber.
I love her. She's a vibe.
She's unbelievable. Yeah,
she's a vibe.
And literally how honest she was.
Oh yeah.
When you look at the guests that you have had, who has been your standout guest for something that you weren't necessarily expecting? Who comes to mind?
Do you know who changed my thought process a lot on manifestation was Dr. James Doty. So Dr. James Doty is a neuroscientist and neurosurgeon, and he went from rags to riches, to rags again, and to riches again. Grew up in poverty in California. Really, really tough childhood. And I had written him down that I wanted on my podcast. I had a list, so writing it down again. And it's funny, right? This goes back to like the 7 steps. I'd written down his name, and I reached out to him on LinkedIn, and he said, send an email. First I reached out to him, no response. Then he was on a live seminar, and I joined it. And so I reached out to him again, and I was like, I was on your seminar last night. It was great. And he said, send an email to my assistant, Ona Buckley. I was like, that is an Irish name. 100%. So I reached out. So I sent an email, and it bounced. And it bounced a second time, and it bounced a third time. And I was like, holy shit, I am not giving up. So I actually changed the email around, and it sent. that I was not giving up. And this is persistence, folks. So anyway, she told me, I met her for lunch. I said to her, because she happened to live exactly where I live. And what are the odds of a guy in California having his assistant in Ireland? So things just happen. So she told me he gets about 300 to 400 emails a day, Yvonne. I don't know how you got him on. He was just on Mel Robbins. He was on Lewis Howe's School of Greatness, but he was on my first group, Gwyneth Paltrow. But when he talked about manifestation, he talked a lot about, listen, I'm not going to judge anybody here. If you want the house, the car, the wealth, whatever it is, that's fine. You can have that. I like nice things too. But remember, they might not necessarily make you happy. You think they're going to make you happy, but you get there and you're like, because we all need to have purpose behind what we're doing. And he talks about that a lot, about like, what is your purpose? Why are you here? Who are you truly? And if you're serving others, if you are of service to others, then that's really where manifestation is just going to explode for you. And that really made me realize that like Pause Penny, the brand, talking about manifestation is really about being of service to others, telling people you can do this. Mm-hmm. You've got to believe in yourself, as opposed to just like, I want the house, the money, the car, the Louis Vuitton. Now, again, like I said,
as my sister says to me, I said, money doesn't make you happy, but she says, Stevie, she said, it doesn't, but it allows me to buy the things that make me happy.
Yeah, I would say this, money doesn't make you happy, but it gives you choices and it gives you freedom. Yeah. And I have people who follow me that are in unhappy marriages, have told me, and they say, I am stuck. And, you know, I was in an article for the Irish Times in 2023. It was called Money and Me. And effectively, you write about money and you, and you know, are you a spender or your saver? By the way, my husband says I'm talented at spending money. But there was this one clickbait title that they took, and it was like, effectively, it said, my mom always had to ask my dad for money, and that was never going to be me. So effectively, growing up, like I said, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, which meant that she had to ask my dad for money. And I was like, I am going to be financially independent in my own right. That's what worked for me. So money might not make you happy, but it will give you freedom and it will give you choice. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a pretty good reason to want money. Mm.
I have so many questions. I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but looking back as yourself as that 14-year-old girl, right? If you look back when you were 14, what do you remember as a young girl that has helped you become the person that you are today?
I didn't give a shit what anybody thought of me.
So the attitude.
Mm-hmm. I was just like, I'm doing it my way. I don't care if you like me or not. This is me. What you get, what you see is what you get. And I'm going to be for some people. I'm not going to be for everyone. But I always say, if you are for everyone, then you're likely a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't have your own opinion that you need to agree with everybody else, then you're just pleasing those people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have, maybe that is your identity, but it's kind of, you're nearly in a haze of what others view of you as opposed to what you believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important. I do think it's important that you have an opinion, you be respectful of others, but not to be afraid to give your opinion. Some people are simply afraid because they're afraid that there may be tension afterwards. They may be afraid that they'll upset somebody. Like the people who love us the most, they're not afraid of upsetting us because they know that they're saying it because it's coming from a good place, you know? So I think if it's a case that if you have an opinion, don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to give it. But be proud of what you're trying to say as opposed to being difficult for the sake of it, right? Yeah. I think there's something in that a lot of, like, I used to be a people pleaser. I used to be chasing people to hang out with. I used to be like never liking to upset anybody in the office, never liking to, and not necessarily upset, but like never kind of saying things that I thought were were going to hurt somebody. And in my early 30s, I call it the editing phase in my life. I kind of edited all the negative people out of my life. Like I edited all the people that I was chasing and my time is precious, right? And I didn't have value on my time. So why was I doing that? You know, I was doing it because, it was just something that I'd always done. And as soon as I edited all those humans out of my life, and as soon as I became really, really focused and confident in my ability and my job and stuff, people, like my life became way, way better, way more fulfilling. My time and the people I was spending my time with became far more fruitful. It was like a eureka
and
moment.
then you all of a sudden start crashing into people in coffee shops that are aligned with who you are. And I always say, be a vibe and you'll find your tribe.
Yeah.
Like be you, be your authentic self. And all these people that have started coming into my life that I'm like, wow, like these are really cool people. And they're my sort of people. And I think that's one thing, you know, you can have people with manifestation. They're like, oh God, my family or my friends are just not into it. Like, listen, we all have family and friends that might not be into it. Don't talk to them about it.
Yeah.
You know, but find a community that gets it, that gets you.
Who has inspired you most?
Absolutely, without a doubt, Sara Blakely.
Okay.
The Spanx founder. She was selling fax machines. She failed her law exams. And she said, someday I'm going to be on the couch with Oprah. I don't know for what it's going to be, but someday it's going to be there. And she wrote down in her journal that she was really good at sales. So like figure out what you're good at if you don't know. And she's like, sales. And she said, I want to create something that I can sell to millions of people. And then she created Spanx with $5,000 in her back pocket and ended up on Oprah. And to this day, she still talks about talking to the universe, the law of attraction, believing in yourself. She is so funny. Like she's, you know, wears the funny glasses, doesn't take herself too seriously. And I just think, for me personally, I think sometimes I say initially it was very hard for me to come out as a manifester and talk about manifestation, because I'm in a career where law is very formal and rigid. Well, that's what we're seen as, formal, and people will be like, what is she on about, you know? So it took courage. Like it wasn't just that easy for me to, like, if you look at my LinkedIn feed, there's nothing about law. It's all about manifestation and mindset, right? And that was hard. But I just look back to her and I think, well, if Sara Blakely can do it, well, then I can do it. Yeah. So she for sure her. And I think she just had this mindset, this insane belief in herself. She learned about failure as a kid. It's okay to fail. At least you're trying. And she's delusional.
I love it. I think with that being said as well, I like, and taking into account everything you've said, I'm putting it out there into the universe now that I'm going to host or be a presenter or a facilitator on some major stage somewhere where I'm going to be asking people like you who have made it or whatever questions about what makes them tick and about what motivates them and what inspires them in front of thousands.
Okay,
people,
so what we're going to do is I'm going to get you on the 21-day manifestation challenge. I'll get you a box because it's a different box. And that's what you can manifest. That's what you can start visualizing.
That'll be that is ultimately, because that's one of the things I have been thinking about for quite a while. But we will get to that in January, and maybe we might come back and have a conversation about that whole experience. If people want to reach out and get in touch with you, Yvonne, how do they do it? Where's the best place to contact you?
The best place is Instagram, Yvonne Tchrakian _manifest. I'm a big fan of the voice notes, so feel free to leave me a voice note. And if you want to learn more about manifestation, the podcast, All Up in Your Biz, the podcast has been nominated as Best Business Podcast and Best Newcomer Podcast in the Irish Podcast Awards, which was actually something I used to go into the podcast studio and I'd pick up an award and I would say, there's a video of me on LinkedIn from 6 months ago, me picking up the award in the studio saying, Yvonne Tchrakian, best all up in your biz, best new podcast. I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it. I used to do it every time I went into the studio. And then I was told by the studio, oh, the podcast awards have gone away in Ireland. So I let it go. I was like, okay, that's fine. But they're back. And I was shortlisted.
Unreal.
And I was like, I told you, but I'm in the same category as Garen Noon, who's got a new I'm Delicious podcast. So, but you know what? Either way,
You're there.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to win.
Yeah.
You know, I love podcasting. I don't need to win. And I think that's a good part of manifestation. If you don't need it,
yeah,
you'll be happy.
I love that. Well, on that note, Yvonne, thank you so much for coming in to talk to me. Thanks to the team in the Collaborative Studios, Shane and the guys. Brilliant to have this facility. But really appreciate your time, your honesty, and I hope people take from this what I did. There's 7 steps. There's making an action. Don't worry about your vision boards. Actually put down it in writing, and that'll actually change the brain, the way your mind thinks, and the neurons in your brain will actually start to focus on what you want to get out of life. So, Yvonne, thank you so much.
And thanks for sharing what you're manifesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that courage to put it out there and say it. So
that's one of them anyway.
It's one of them.
Let's do.
By the way, you can have a long list of what you're manifesting. Doesn't need to be one thing. So let's go.
Let's go.
Can't wait to see you on that stage.